This evening I'm flying from Cape Town to Johannesburg on Airlink's Embraer 195 in business class, on a codeshare with Virgin Atlantic. In just 90 minutes after landing, I need to clear immigration, pass through security and connect onto my upper class flight back to London. It's a tight connection, and if anything goes wrong here, the whole journey starts to fall apart. So the question is simple. Is Airlink Business Class a seamless premium experience, or the weakest link in a long-haul journey? Let's find out. Welcome to the channel. I'm Anthony, and after more than 1 million miles in premium cabins around the world, I know exactly where the weak links in a journey tend to hide.
Doors to automatic cross-check.
Here at Doors to Automatic, I bring you in-depth, honest reviews of premium airline services, not just how they look, but how they perform when it matters. If you value detail, context, and real-world analysis, subscribe and let's get into it. I'm starting this journey at Cape Town International Airport, where I'm flying Airlink Business Class to Johannesburg on their Embraer 195. Although it's a short domestic hop, it's operated as a codeshare, not just with Virgin Atlantic, but also with British Airways, feeding directly into 2 overnight flights to London, departing within minutes of each other. So this isn't just a regional shuttle. It's a feeder carrying long-haul business class and upper class passengers whose journeys depend on precision. That makes this 2-hour sector far more consequential than it might appear. When I land in Johannesburg, I'll need to clear immigration, pass through security and reach my departure gate, all within just 90 minutes. And if this flight runs late, even slightly, the entire long-haul journey starts to unravel. So today's review isn't just about the seat or the service. It's about whether Airlink can deliver the seamless premium experience that long-haul business class passengers expect, when timing really matters. Let's head to check-in and see how the journey begins. Airlink operated a dedicated business class check-in desk, and this evening there was little queuing. For a domestic departure, that's a strong start. Standard Airlink Business Class included 30 kilos of checked baggage. However, because this was issued as part of an interline ticket with Virgin Atlantic, the upper class allowance of 2 32-kilo bags applied. That alignment matters. When airlines codeshare at this level, baggage policy consistency is a quiet but critical detail. Fast-track security was also included, which matters because the margin for delay later in Johannesburg is going to be slim. Once airside, business class passengers had access to the Slow Lounge, Cape Town's independent premium lounge used by several airlines. It was functional rather than luxurious, but for a short early evening departure, it did the job. You might ask why I didn't fly directly back to London from Cape Town. Well, that would have added around £2,000 to the ticket price. This was, after all, the last day of the UK school holidays. From the lounge, I could see my aircraft arrive on its previous sector from Johannesburg. It was an Embraer E195AR aircraft. Registration Zulu, Sierra, Yankee, Delta, Golf. It was 18 years old. Soon it was time to leave the lounge and head to the gate. Boarding was from gate C6, a remote stand requiring a bus transfer. Business class passengers were invited to board the bus first. In reality, once the bus filled, boarding the aircraft itself became something of a free-for-all. Remote stands are operationally common, but from a premium passenger perspective, they interrupt the controlled boarding flow that business class is designed to create. Our aircraft was parked on a stand just to the left of gate A13. This evening's flight, 4Z932, was scheduled to depart at 18:25 and arrive in Johannesburg at 20:30. Business class was located at the front of the cabin with 11 seats in a 1-2 configuration. The cabin was completely full, which meant the service tempo would be tested. Unlike many European regional business class products, this was a genuine dedicated cabin. There was no blocked middle seat theatre here. This was structurally a different product. I was seated in 2 Foxtrot. The seats were wider than those in economy, with additional pitch and a fixed centre console. There was plenty of legroom. Overhead bin space was at a premium, with narrow bins above the single seats. However, there was space to stow a bag under the seat in front. Overhead were reading lights and air vents. The doors closed on time, following refuelling, but we remained on stand for a short period while the runway direction was switched. A manual safety demonstration was conducted by the cabin crew. Notably, there was no reference to life jackets in the manual demonstration, unusual even on a domestic sector. For taxi, takeoff and landing, both headphones and AirPods were required to be removed, an operational detail that not all airlines require. We finally pushed back 10 minutes behind schedule, eating into the potential transfer window in Johannesburg. We taxied from the stand across the west of the airfield to take off from runway 19. We eventually lined up on the runway at 18:57 and were airborne a minute later. As we take off, a quick thank you to the Doors to Automatic cabin crew, the members who support this channel behind the scenes. For just £4 a month, you get early access to reviews, plus deeper analysis and the strategy I use when booking and positioning journeys like this. If you want to be part of that inner circle, the link is below. The flight time from Cape Town to Johannesburg was scheduled to be 2 hours and 5 minutes, but today we could expect a routing of about 1 hour 40. However, with the delayed departure, this would make the connection tight. There was no in-flight entertainment system, and Wi-Fi was not available on board. However, there was an in-flight magazine, which included details of the Airlink fleet and route map. There were stunning views across the South African countryside. Once airborne, drinks orders were taken for all 11 business class passengers before any service began. The tray table folded out from under the armrest. The first drinks arrived just under half an hour after takeoff. On a 2-hour sector, that timing matters. The drinks selection included soft drinks, juices, beer, wine and tea and coffee. Shortly afterwards, the meal service began. There were 2 main course options: beef kebab with wheat rice or chicken with polenta. In addition to the main course, there was a cheese and biscuit course, followed by a small tart with vanilla foam cream and mango sauce. A box of 2 chocolate fudge pieces was also provided. For a 2-hour domestic flight, the catering was substantial. Presentation was neat rather than elevated, closer in style to short-haul European business class than to a long-haul premium cabin. What differentiates a short premium sector in this context is less about complexity and more about pacing. And here, the pacing was competent but not dynamic. There was 1 toilet at the front of the cabin, although this was not reserved exclusively for business class passengers. It was compact, as expected on an aircraft of this size. No premium toiletries were provided. We came into land on runway 03 right at OR Tambo International Airport, and then taxied to a gate at the main terminal. For the remainder of the flight, the crew withdrew to the rear galley. There were no proactive top-ups of drinks, and the cabin became noticeably quieter from a service perspective. That's not unusual on a short regional flight. But when this sector fed directly into long-haul business class, whether Virgin Atlantic or British Airways, the expectation curve shifted. And it's these small details of attentiveness and flow where the premium positioning is either reinforced or diluted. We arrived at gate C4 at 20:47, 17 minutes behind the scheduled arrival time. That delay erased nearly 20% of the available connection buffer. I had 73 minutes until the departure of the Virgin Atlantic connection from gate A5. The aircraft doors opened at 20:51. At that point, the connection clock was very real. Rather than being left to navigate the terminal independently, connecting passengers were escorted directly from the aircraft. There were approximately 30 passengers connecting onto the Virgin Atlantic and British Airways departures to London, both scheduled within minutes of each other. The pace was brisk, enough at times that it was difficult to keep up. Airlink staff were positioned throughout the route, clearly managing the flow and ensuring no one fell behind. We were ushered directly into the diplomat and crew security lane, bypassing the main queues. From there we were fast-tracked through immigration. The operation was tightly controlled, but it felt more like a protected transfer than a premium one. It did not feel relaxed at all. It was a coordinated operation designed to protect 2 long-haul departures. Security was cleared at 21:23. I boarded the Virgin Atlantic flight 10 minutes later. So despite the slightly delayed arrival, the 90-minute connection was successfully preserved. So where does this leave Airlink Business Class on the Embraer E195AR? On board, the experience compares well with a typical European short-haul business class product. The cabin was genuinely separated, the seat was properly proportioned, and the catering, while simple, was substantial for a 2-hour domestic sector. In the air, this felt like a credible premium offering. The ground experience, however, was more variable. A dedicated check-in desk and fast-track security at Cape Town were welcome touches, but a remote stand departure and a bus gate inevitably dilute the sense of exclusivity. And in Johannesburg, while the 90-minute connection was successfully protected, it required structured staff intervention and a coordinated escort through security and immigration. It worked, but it worked because it was actively managed. Without that human intervention, the risk profile would have increased quickly. The transfer felt efficient, but rushed. So is this a seamless premium experience? Not entirely. Is it the weakest link in the long-haul business class journey? No. What Airlink delivers here is a well-managed regional premium product that performs strongly in the air and adequately on the ground, provided the operation runs as intended. For passengers connecting onto Virgin Atlantic or British Airways long-haul services, this sector does its job, but the margin for disruption is narrower than the timetable might suggest. And that's the key takeaway. In isolation, this is a credible regional business class product. In context, feeding directly into a long-haul upper-class departure, it becomes something more delicate. Airlink delivers competence in the air, structure on the ground, and coordination when required. But this isn't a journey with margin, and that's what you need to understand before booking it. This flight feeds both Virgin Atlantic upper class and British Airways Club World departures within minutes of each other. I've reviewed both long-haul products in detail. You can watch them here. And please do subscribe for future reviews.